I'm Reverend Katey Zeh, and I serve as interim CEO of the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. As we honor Black History Month, I wanted to share some of the Black thought leaders and scholars whose work has influenced my advocacy for reproductive freedom and dignity as a Christian minister. First, I want to honor Dolores Williams, the womanist theologian and author of this book, Sisters in the Wilderness, The Challenge of Womanist God Talk. This was a fundamental text for me as I examined my identity as a white woman in this movement. In her book, Williams explores the biblical story of Hagar through the lens of Black women's experiences of oppression since the time of slavery. She was the first scholar to introduce me to the idea of how different forms of oppression intersect, and she challenged me to examine the ways that white women have silenced and oppressed Black women and other women of color. If you have not read Sisters in the Wilderness, I highly recommend it. Second, I want to honor Dorothy Roberts and her book, Killing the Black Body, Race, Reproduction, and the Meaning of Liberty, which she published in 1997. Roberts is a law professor at Rutgers University, and in her book, she examines the ways that Black women have always been engaged in a struggle to regain control of their bodily autonomy and their reproductive decisions. She says that reproductive freedom is a matter of social justice, and I couldn't agree more. For me, this book really illustrated the importance of expanding the conversations that we have about reproductive freedom beyond access to abortion, because she shows the history of the ways in which our government has oppressed Black women's ability to create their families, which leads me to my last point. I want to honor the 12 women who created the reproductive justice framework to center the intersectional oppression that Black women and other women of color, as well as other marginalized people, experience that diminishes their bodily autonomy and their universal human rights and their abilities to create and care for their families. I'm so grateful to these 12 Black women and for their leadership. As a follower of Christ, I believe my call to this work is to identify and dismantle all systems of oppression that deny the dignity and the sacred worth of God's people. Today, with increasing rates of maternal and infant mortality, lack of access to health care, legislation that criminalizes people who are pregnant, all of these injustices and more disproportionately impact Black women and other people of color. It's so important that we look to the leadership of those most impacted to help us find a way forward in creating a more just and compassionate society. So, as we honor Black History Month, I would encourage you to think, who are some of the Black thought leaders who have influenced your work for justice? We'd love to hear about them.